Hi, welcome back to another junior statistics video. Here's a couple of questions we're going to ask. Does your height and weight have a relationship? What about the amount of hours of homework you do and the grades you get? Or what about how much money you earn compared to your age? These are all good questions. They can be answered on a scatter plot. A scatter plot graph is basically a statistical graph that shows the relationship that occurs between two different variables. Some studies over the years have shown a few things. I like this one down the bottom. Too much homework can cause stress and ill health effects. Well, what about dark chocolate may improve your brain function? All these studies have been investigated and the graphs and relationships have been put onto what we call a scatter plot. So let's get into an example and show you what they're about. The sales of ice cream in dollars was plotted against the daily temperature in degrees Celsius. So we've got sales on the y-axis in dollars, and we've got the temperature, daily temperature in degrees Celsius on the x-axis. Right, this point here, as an estimate, I'm just going to guess, it seems to be roughly 18 degrees Celsius, maybe a little bit higher, and approximately $410. So on a day where the temperature was 18 degrees Celsius, they sold $410 of ice cream. This point here, I'm guessing once again, is probably around about 23.5 degrees Celsius, and they sold $540 of ice cream. Now we can see values down the bottom here. With lower temperatures, they have lower sales. And these prices up here, higher temperatures and higher sales. So it's kind of starting to suggest that the higher the temperature, the more sales we have. And we've added what we call a trend line in. It's a straight line graph. And that sort of gives us an idea of what's happening with this data. Once again, the lower the temperature, the lower the sales, the higher the temperature, the higher the sales. And that's the kind of thing we expect, because we probably expect to sell more ice cream when it's hotter. All right, the variables must be numbers and can either be measured, which we call continuous, or counted, which we call discrete. Here's some examples of scatter plots. Weight and height. Is there a relationship between your weight and your height? What about the weight of a baby when it's born and the age of a mother? What about the size of an engine in a car and the cost of the car? Now, let's talk about the strength of the relationship. The strength of the relationship can be determined by looking at the amount of scatter in the graph. We go from a weaker scatter to a stronger scatter. So this kind of example we call a very weak relationship. The scatter's all over the place. Not a lot of relationship at all. What about this kind of scatter? Still weak. This kind of scatter is starting to get a little bit closer together. We'd probably call it moderate. This scatter, you can see the dots are starting to close in now, and we'd probably call it moderately strong relationship. And now we've got a very close sort of, the data is almost on a straight line, and we'd probably call it a very strong relationship. We also talk about the direction of the relationship. The relationship may be positive or negative. If it's positive, the x variable increases and the y variable increases. But if it's negative, the x variable increases and the y variable decreases. So here's an example of the size of carrots and the price. We're talking about diamonds or gold. So as the size increases, the price increases. Here's one about the number of classes missed. As the number of classes increase, the exam score decreases. What about the car age and the price? As the age increases, the price of the car decreases. Right, what about the relationship? Well, this would probably be moderately strong. So I'm going to write this sentence and see if you can understand it. I notice that there's a moderately strong relationship between the age of the car and the price of the car. It's a negative relationship, which means the older the car gets, the less the price will be. All right, well, that's a quick introduction to scatter plots. Thanks very much for listening in.